At Blinds.com, it's not just about window treatments. It's about you, your style, your space, your way. Whether you DIY or want the pros to handle it all, you'll have the confidence of knowing it's done right. From free expert design help to our 100% satisfaction guarantee, everything we do is made to fit your life and your windows. Because at Blinds.com, the only thing we treat better than windows is you. Visit Blinds.com now for up to 45% off with minimum purchase plus a professional measure at no cost. Rules and restrictions apply.
Unfiltered discussions, unexpected guests. No topic is off limits, from sex and relationships to the human condition, personal anxieties, and so much more. The only talk show of its kind in the world. This is The Last Show with David Cooper.
Welcome in. Happy Monday. We have a ton to cover, but here's some of what you'll learn on tonight's program. The job of intimacy coordination. Maybe the sexiest job in film you've never heard of. An intimacy coordinator makes sure those steamy scenes you see on screen go smoothly. We'll find out how that all works in 10 minutes' time. Then, Chucky, that scary doll from the movies. Why do we find dolls so freaky? And why, when something is almost real but isn't, it's scary? It's called the Uncanny Valley, and we'll learn about it halfway through the hour. We are here reporting live from London, England. Our foreign correspondent, Tony Five, is here. I said the word here twice. Tony, welcome to the show.
Hello, dear boy. Welcome to Monday. How are you? Did you have a nice weekend? Yeah, it's been a bit of a strange one for me, but how did you go? The last I heard, you were being visited by the glorious Mr. and Mrs. Cooper.
I am currently with my parents. They're in the other room on my big screen projector watching the news, very hopeful and excited about this peace deal in the Middle East.
Okay.
How was your weekend?
It was okay. Well, it took a bit of a turn, so what was I doing? I was just like chilling out. It was a long weekend with Frank, my dog, and it was like really nice weather. Went out for a run, and it was good. Frank, I don't know whether I told you about Frank. So he was a rescue. So he'd come from a rescue shelter, and when I first got him, he was like, he'd been abandoned twice, weirdly. And in the UK, we have a chip system. So when you scan the chip, it tells you the owner of the dog. And
yeah, of course. Yeah, our cat's chipped just in case he escapes. Yeah.
And weirdly, when they'd first scanned the chip with Frank, they'd said that he'd died. He was a dead dog. So I'd like a born-again dog. It was amazing. Like, my dog was like superhuman. So when they first scanned him, my dog was deceased. So I sort of rejuvenated him. And then his original name was Aero, but I called him Frank von Frank III, obviously. So, he'd had some behavioural problems. He was a little bit, jumpy and a bit annoying and a bit bitey sometimes, a bit aggressive sometimes. But he'd bitten me. And it was like really horrible, like, geez, wow, like, what's going on? It was quite a deep bite. And then, he just the way it is. And on Sunday, last night, we were sitting on the sofa, we were all like sort of lying down and cuddling, we were watching TV. And out of nowhere, David, like literally out of nowhere, no sign, no trigger, no nothing, he jumped up and he bit me. He took out my thumb, which I'm showing you now.
Oy.
On the channel, and then he took out my wrist, which I'm showing you now on the...
Oh, no.
And yeah, he just went... And it was for nothing at all. I wasn't being sort of playful with him or taking his food away. It was nothing. It was literally, he was lying on the sofa, he just jumped up, which is an indication of like a dog that's not really wired right, because obviously I'm his caregiver, he loves me, and he was so remorseful, man. I've never seen anything like after he drew blood, and I was like Jesus, my thumb's bleeding, it's got a deep gash, about a 1-inch gash, and it's blood everywhere, and then my left hand side is like bleeding near my wrist. It looks like I've sort of like attacked myself. He went under the sofa, under the table, and just sat there, and just hid for an hour. It was the most amazing, so surreal.
Are you okay? Did you go to the hospital?
So no, I'm not okay, because what happened was I spoke to the charity, and I had to take him to the vet, and I had to put him down.
What?
I had to put him to sleep.
Why didn't you tell me this until now?
I thought, it'd be okay to tell you on air, because, people are going through this sort of stuff. And I thought, well, so I'm absolutely devastated, mate.
Tony, I'm so sorry, my friend.
Yeah, so not a good day for Tony Five, but...
Well, what a thing to spring on me in the show. I wish you told me, whatever. I am so sorry, my friend.
Yeah, so So most people don't know, I got him when I was in a very bad way to help me get out and to help with my sort of depression. And he did. He was incredible. And I sort of ignored the sort of erratic, aggressive behaviour. But last night, I've got like lots of nieces and nephews and friends, and I go out, and if he'd have bitten any of them, I could never have forgiven myself. So I sort of didn't sleep overnight and spoke to the charity this morning, and obviously they can't rehome him with anybody if he showed that level of aggression. And it was very, I mean, he's part pit bull, so he's got, I think, 300 pounds per square inch of bite power. So 300 psi is a hell of a lot, I mean, in terms of bite power. So yeah, I think before I spoke to you earlier, I'd gone to the vets mid-afternoon and they sedated him, and I sat there with him, and then they gave him sort of an injection, and he went to sleep slowly. Yeah.
Even if it's the right thing, it's so awful. I'm glad he was comfortable and with you during it, but...
Oh, yeah, it was with him, and yeah, I was with him, and we sat down. First experience, mate. Never ever been with a dog never ever had a dog who's died on me, because I've only ever fostered a dog.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I'm almost speechless. I am sorry that happened. You're a good soul for giving him a nice life until that. And what an awful thing. My thoughts and sympathies, and I'm really sorry that happened to you, Tony.
What are your parents watching now, by the way?
Some news network. And you found that dog during such a dark time in your life. I'm worried.
Yeah, well, he found me, weirdly, because for those who don't know, I was sort of like almost homebound. I was like comatose. David would be very kind and call me and text me. And this was kind of my first step, because I love dogs, was to go to the kennel, and dogs don't really like kennels, so I would take him out for walks. And there's so many dogs in kennels, you just walk them. So they don't come to your house, you just take them out for walk for exercises, because they don't do anything in a pound.
Tell me something nice about Frank. Tell me a nice memory you have.
Oh, man, he loved the ball more than anybody I've ever met in my life. My God, that dog would see a ball and his eyes would light up and he would fixate himself on the ball. You could throw, like the best filet mignon steak, and he couldn't care less. The ball was where it was at. And he could run and run and run until, his lungs would explode. And he was great company, and he was the best medication for me. When I needed it the most, he was there. And yeah, it's like really sad.
It is.
But, I think I sprung it on you. So I purposely said, we usually have a chat. And you said, oh, Tony, what are we going to talk about? And I said, just ask me what I did this weekend. And I was very straight. I wasn't really...
Yeah, at the commercial break, you didn't let any of this on. And I'm just trying to figure out why. But I mean, yeah, I don't know what to say.
And we'd spoke earlier and I didn't even mention it, and I'd literally just got back after that, and I didn't even show you my hand on the video, because we video sometimes. There was a reason for that, and I didn't want to do it twice.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to do it because it wouldn't have been genuine. And I will say it to you before, and I will say it to you again. You said to me once, if you can't be funny, be real.
Yeah, as a general rule for what to do on the radio, I guess.
And I wasn't funny, and I was being real. And I thought, well, the best way to be real is to tell you why it was happening. Otherwise, if I'd have said it to you in a break and then said it to you after, it wouldn't have been authentic for the listener. It wouldn't have been authentic for you, and it wouldn't have felt authentic to me. And I thought, you know what? Why not? So, no, to answer your question, I'm not all right.
Well, I would expect you wouldn't be. And I thank you for sharing that with me in the show. And I wish you well. And I'm sorry it happened. And Frank was a good pup. And even if it's for the best, it's still tough. And I'm glad that he got to have a nice little life with you until he made that mistake. Yeah,
well, it's not his. Dogs are. It was an instinct. Something's happened in his past that has made him do that, and it's fine. There was no animosity to him. He's a dog. I loved him, and he fulfilled his duties as a dog to me, and he was wonderful. And I wish I could have had more years with him, but I didn't, and that's fine, and that's part of life, and it's something that I've got to learn to deal with and not let it crush me and collapse me. And speaking like this, it's weird because it feels like I'm telling you, but I'm telling every single person that's listening. So I've got all these people that are listening at the same time, and I don't know, I don't understand social media, David, so maybe someone will put up a picture of Frank on our social media for us, or you can email me, tony@lastshow.pizza, if you want to tell me about your dog.
Tony@lastshow.pizza. That's .pizza, not .com, if you want to send some condolences by email. Frank loved to ball. Tony, I love you, and thank you for sharing that with the show.
And I love your parents. Let me know if they leave the sofa, yeah?
I will do. Tony 5 is our foreign correspondent in London, England. Changing gears, up next, the sexiest job in film you've never heard about. An intimacy coordinator, someone whose job is to make sure things go smoothly during those steamy scenes you see on the screen. Details of how that all works in a minute. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
In the 70s, 4 young women were found dead. For nearly 50 years, their cases went cold. I'm Nancy Hixt, a senior crime reporter for Global News. In the season finale of Crime Beat, I share how investigators uncovered shocking evidence of a serial killer and hear exclusive interviews with the killer's family. Listen to the full season of Crime Beat early and ad-free on Amazon Music by asking Alexa to play the podcast Crime Beat.
Taste the forbidden fruit of knowledge. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Have you ever watched a love scene or even a steamy sex scene in a movie and wondered how did they make that look so real, but still make sure everyone feels comfortable and safe? Well, it turns out there is a person on set who helps, and that job is called an intimacy coordinator. I am here with one. They are named Jen Viens, and they work in Montreal, Canada, and recently worked on Apple TV's The Last Frontier. Jen, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
You have, I think it's a cool job. I mean, it's a job that no one ever really thinks exists. And then when they really think about it, they're like, yeah, I get that. I see why that's an important thing. What attracted you to this line of work in the first place?
Well, so I've been in film for a really long time. I started as an actor and then I moved into producing and directing. And I mean, I love film and I love storytelling. I had gone through some, unfortunate situations that were uncomfortable on set as a performer. And so had some of my colleagues. And I had just really wished that there was a way that I could have all the good parts of film without the bad parts. And then a number of years ago, I took a workshop on consent and boundaries, and they were taught by 2 intimacy directors. And that was the first time I had ever heard of this job, of this role. And I went, wait a minute, you're telling me that there's a way that I can make film and make it safe at the same time?
And get paid? I mean, that's
get paid and be on a set. So I was like, don't mind if I do. So I kind of just jumped off the deep end and I found some training programs and did all the levels and got my certification. And here we are.
Am I right to say that this role kind of didn't exist on sets like in the last century, like in the 80s, the 90s,
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, in the last 20 years, it's now a common thing. I don't think you can really do an intimacy scene without one in most major productions.
Nowadays, it's more often than not, you're going to have an intimacy coordinator. There are still some situations where you won't because, it's not actually like obligatory the way a stunt coordinator is yet. We're working on it. But the first recorded incidents of, that's a funny way to say it. The first recorded incidents of an intimacy coordinator in North America was back in 2018 when HBO hired an in-house intimacy coordinator. It started with The Deuce. I don't know if you're familiar with that show, but and then they made it standard for all of their productions that had any level of intimacy or nudity. They just had an in-house IC, and then it sort of snowballed slowly from there.
And for those who haven't heard of the role, I kind of gave a crude definition when I introduced you. What exactly does a film intimacy coordinator do?
Great question. So, I mean, it's fundamentally, it kind of varies from project to project depending on what the show needs. But essentially, at its base, what an intimacy coordinator does is I do a breakdown the way a stunt coordinator would, and I look at all the scenes and I flag everything that is worth a conversation. So basically, anything that's any level of nudity, any level of simulated sex, sometimes even things that are scenes of hyperexposure. So what that might mean is if I have a trans performer who's in a scene with that the tone or the theme is transphobic, then I would flag that too because it's about, it's a sensitive, vulnerable scene. And then, I meet with the director and I get all the specific information, and then I have one-on-ones with the performers to see where their boundaries lie in relation to what is asked of them in the scene. And then, Basically, if there's any contraindication between what, they want for what the director wants or what the production wants and what the actor is confident with, then I'm like the advocate, the go-between that makes sure that we can still tell the story the way that it needs to be told, but working within those boundaries to make sure that the performers are safe. And then I'm on set with them, advocating for them, helping the director choreograph if they need that. And so that's a very short Cliff's Notes version of the job.
No, it's good because I was thinking like, how does the mechanics of a sex scene work, like a gross person? But there you are, like giving a really good description about how this all works holistically.
Yeah, and it is that too, right? And then I, sometimes I'll have a rehearsal or I'll be on set. We have a private blocking, and I am helping with the choreography of that. So, and it is really very technical. Is the thing that a lot of people, like even performers, are like, oh, I didn't expect that it was going to be that technical because they're counting, and it's like this part of their hand to this part of a leg or something, and so it really is like choreographed very specifically, like a stunt would be. Because it is about safety and making sure that there's no like accidental slip up or a line isn't crossed unintentionally, because it happens, and so we're just setting everybody up to make sure that you're supported and you have what you need to do the job safely and tell the story well.
Is it a difficult balance, that creative vision of the director, the kind of creative people behind the work, and then what the actors are comfortable with? Or is it usually like that overlap is fine and you just kind of work through it?
It really it varies. One thing I will say is that, now that the role, since when I first started, the role was still super, super new. And so there was more kind of like resistance, I think, just because people didn't understand, because we'd never worked with them. Like you say, like all those sexy 90s thrillers, it was like, just go for it. They didn't have anybody supporting or assisting that. And so trying to come in and sort of educate about this new role that's beneficial to everyone. And really, I'm there to protect and help everyone. That was a bit of a learning curve. And sometimes I'll experience resistance and that'll be tough, but it's better that I'm getting the resistance than the performers.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of the job, right? Is being that middle person that's like, okay, give me the flack so that they're not pressured into doing something they don't want to do.
Are there misconceptions that people have about sex scenes in TV and movies that like they think things go one way, but it's actually very different than you'd expect?
Yeah, I mean, the common misconception that still sort of survives, especially for people who are not familiar with the role, is that they just think that they just do it. Or, sometimes there is the belief that they're like actually doing it if it looks really, really believable. And that, I would say now, especially with intimacy coordinators, that's definitely a myth because, like I was saying, it's really heavily choreographed a lot of the time. And there's an intimacy coordinator there who's like supporting and watching the monitor and all that kind of stuff.
And people wear kind of, I don't know what to call them, but like sort of modesty coverings so that the actual, privates are not exposed.
Yeah, you nailed it.
Is that what they're called? Modesty coverings?
Yeah, modesty garments. So yes, for sure. So depending on like the level of nudity that's needed in a scene and what kind of action it is, folks might be wearing different types of modesty garments. So they might be wearing like strapless thongs, or they might be wearing like nipple covers or something like that. So it kind of depends on the needs of the scene.
Sure. And is the work fun? Is it challenging? Is it all of the above?
It is all of the above. I love it. I'm very passionate about it because for me, the thing that's amazing is that I still get to be creatively involved, again, while creating a very safe environment, which is, kind of goes against what we've sort of been building in the film industry for a really long time, right? And so I'm bringing in a new element. So now we're working with another standard of practice. And so that for sure is challenging at times, but it's also really fun. It's amazing to see something come together on the screen when I know that everybody felt safe and protected and comfortable, and the director is happy, and the producer and the crew feels good. I'm like, yeah. And then when it looks really sexy, I'm like, yes, we did it.
You did it. You mentioned stunt coordinators are often required, I don't know, legally, but maybe by unions or whatever. You see a future not so far from now where intimacy coordinators are going to be a requirement if we see a sex scene in film or TV?
I do. I mean, we're here to stay. We're not going anywhere. We're a necessary part of the role. And we, in the United States, we actually achieved status within SAG-AFTRA. And so now they're going back to the table to negotiate with the producers around what that looks like. In Canada, in Quebec, we have two different unions. We have UDA, which is like the French side of performance, and then ACTRA, which covers the English part of Canada. And we just achieved status in UDA. So there are certain circumstances under which intimacy coordinators are mandatory. So we're trying to fight for that with ACTRA too. ACTRA and us are fighting for it, I shouldn't say. We're on the same side.
Well, Jen, I appreciate you coming on the show and telling us about your really interesting job. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was great.
Jen Viens is an intimacy coordinator based out of Montreal, Canada. She recently worked on Apple TV's Last Frontier, so check that out. Up next in horror movies, why do we find dolls like Chucky or Annabelle so scary? It's called the uncanny valley, when something almost looks real but doesn't. The science of the uncanny valley reveals strange things about our psychology. Details soon.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. We're here because your heightened awareness deserves heightened entertainment. The last show with David Cooper.
Ever look into a toy doll's eyes and feel like it's looking back a little creepily? From Annabelle to Chucky, these creepy toys have us all wondering, why do dolls freak us out so much? Why are they so great in horror films? Turns out science might have some spooky answers. I'm here with a perceptual cognitive neuroscientist and professor at Northeastern who knows about creepy dolls. Her name is Leanne Chukoskie. Leanne, welcome to the show.
Thank you, David. Pleased to be here.
I think we all intuitively know that dolls are scary. Like when I'm browsing on whatever app streaming service and I see a preview for Chucky or something, I'm scared just looking at the album art. But these things are supposed to be for kids. They're supposed to not be scary, aren't they?
Yeah, I think we have this way of scaring kids as they're young. But there's something specific about these dolls that makes people scared, in part because they're close to real, but they don't quite match. They tweak different things that make it a little unsettling, a little different. And we have a term for it. It's called the uncanny valley.
The uncanny valley, when something's not quite realistic enough. When it's overly cartoonish and it's not realistic at all, we're fine with it. And when it's realistic, great. But when it's just not quite there, like a wax museum, it messes us up for some reason. I guess the question is why?
Yeah, so we have really exquisitely tuned detection mechanisms in our brain for what we call like statistical realities in the world. So how things are in the world, and when things don't quite match with that, when they don't fit into a neat category, or we have challenges predicting what exactly is this, then it sort of rubs us the wrong way. It sets off different parts of our brain that sort of flag like threat, or, I don't know what to do with this. And anytime we don't know, how to explain something, how to predict it, it really sets us off, and we're more standoffish.
What are some other examples? Dolls in horror movies. I just mentioned wax museums. Are there other classic examples you use to describe this uncanny valley?
Yeah, robots. I mean, so the more and more robots get real, and this tends to be a visual phenomenon, David. So, I think that we have yet to see whether sort of audio examples and AI, does that same thing. I think that's still a question for science, but certainly robots do it. Yeah.
Well, no, I cloned my voice using one of these AI services on the recommendation of a friend, and I really didn't like it because it had like some of my idiomatic ways of speaking, some of the weird characteristics of my voice, but then it got other ones wrong, and I'm like, who am I listening to? And it kind of scared me. So you mentioned audio, and I've tried it before, and it's freaky.
Yeah, I can absolutely see that. I mean, if there are reports now, and I just encountered this the other day with people bringing back from the dead, loved ones using AI, but it's wrong, right? It doesn't. I mean, not just wrong in the larger moral sense, perhaps, but like it doesn't feel right because they're not really behaving like Grandpa would behave, right? They're just a little off, and and you're sensitive to those subtle differences, and it signals that something is strange. And I think that isn't that like in the great buildup in all these horror movies where there's something that's just not right, and then it's cue the creepy music. It's just that we don't get creepy music in real life going with something's not right. Yeah.
So what happens in our brain exactly when we look at a human face versus a doll face? Is there something different that lights up?
Yeah, so there's a couple things that happen. I mean, we have specialized neural hardware for detecting faces and facial expressions, and when they are different, the activity there is also different. But then there's different areas that sometimes people think of as higher level, but are kind of they're responsible for making judgments for our emotional reactions to these things. These are often like in the sort of highly mentalizing, deciding areas of the brain, like the frontal cortex, and then deeper down in the frontal cortex is this area called the amygdala that gets a lot of play. That's involved with emotions and threat detection. And so when something is really not right, and I think the most recent creepy doll, which kind of brings us into this conversation, is one called Annabelle. And she really has a lot of weird stuff going on. Like her eyes are very big, but she's got like this tiny little button nose and then a mouth that doesn't dolls have this cute little like like little lips, little mouth, and she's got this big old smile that just it doesn't all fit together, and so it will set off a bunch of alarm bells, and like I don't know what to do with it.
The movie looks certainly scary. Let's talk about kids, though, because kids like dolls. Kids aren't usually, I mean, I'm sure there are kids that are scared of dolls, but kids aren't usually scared of dolls. Do kids experience this uncanny valley effect similar to adults, or is there something different going on with kids such that they don't mind dolls?
Yeah, no, as far as we can tell, they do. And so this is one of the interesting things about statistical learning is that we learn them really early. Like we pick up things about the natural world very early. It sets up how we see and hear the world. And so I think this is part of one of the big concerns that scientists had when during the pandemic when children weren't seeing faces, right? When we were all covered in masks. It's like if you're not seeing natural facial expressions, it doesn't set up the neural hardware properly for how we experience expressions. And it's not just seeing them, right? I mean, you're getting like that happy mother, grandparent, friend, person in the grocery store, what have you, smile, and the like, oh, hi, good morning. There's that sort of the happy voice and the reward system that goes along with that. When that doesn't all come together, then you don't set up these pathways properly. So kids typically do get it right and early. So why we do this to children, I don't quite know, other than there's something about maybe experiencing the range of emotions in a safe way. That's kind of fun. Like, so you can poke at it, but nothing truly terrible happens. It's just, in fact, somebody gives you candy and you run off to the next house, right? That's Halloween. So, so the creepy doll thing definitely seems to hit kids as well.
Let's talk Halloween. Why do you think creepy dolls explode around Halloween? Do people enjoy scaring themselves? Because I don't.
You don't?
I'm the person in the scary movie in the theater that you're telling to be quiet because I'm going, oh no, don't go in that door. Go home, go to bed. Why are you there? Why do people love this stuff around Halloween?
Yeah, it's funny, David. So I and my two sons also really love scary movies. My husband. So like there's definitely a section of the population that wants nothing to do with being horrified, but I think that a lot of people find it interesting to experience the range of emotions and get tap into that. What does it feel like? Maybe that contrast also is like my life is actually pretty good. I don't walk around feeling horrified all the time of opening a door and something's going to jump out at me, right? I just expect that beyond the door is going to be what I think is going to be beyond the door, right? And so it's just experiencing things that you don't normally get to experience. And I think that there are certainly, sadly, kids who are operating. They've had trauma. They are much more anxiety ridden for whatever reason, where they're going to have a more outsized reaction to these things, right? And maybe it's not so great for them. But there are other people.
I didn't bring you on the show to give me therapy about my childhood, but thank you for explaining why I'm so scared of movies. I was an anxious kid. If you had to spend a night with a room of life-size dolls staring at you, would you be able to sleep? Because I certainly wouldn't be able to.
I don't know what it is about me, but I am that person, voted most likely to sleep through a catastrophe. Like I just have this really unique ability to sleep. There's this family story where we were in a snowstorm and we were stuck on the side of the road, like creepy, wooded, snowing, and I slept. I was a graduate student, if that matters, but
It
I'd most likely
might.
be able to sleep through whatever. So yeah, no, it won't bother me at all.
Leanne, thanks for talking to me about why Chucky and creepy doll toys are so scary to us. I appreciate you coming on the show.
Well, thanks for having me, David. This was fun.
Leanne Chukoskie is a perceptual cognitive neuroscientist and professor at Northeastern. Up next, a fascinating conversation about being gay in professional sports. I will be joined by the first openly gay professional men's hockey player to discuss, well, what's that like? Don't you want to know?
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. The show that asks the questions other shows are afraid to ask. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Hockey, a sport known for toughness and tradition, but not always inclusion. Today we are joined by Brock McGillis, the first openly gay professional men's hockey player, and I want to chat about changing the game by pushing for acceptance and culture change in sports. Brock, welcome to the show.
David, thanks for having me. I appreciate being here.
Let's get serious before things get off the rails, because I do want to have fun in this discussion. But you have been described as the first openly gay men's professional hockey player. This is a journey that started, when you came out publicly in 2016, or I imagine well before that?
Gosh, this is a journey that started when I was 6. I remember the first time the first time I asked my parents if I was gay, I was watching a movie with them, and there was a gay character, and I said, "What if I'm gay?"
Wait, you asked your parents if you were gay? How does a parent answer a question?
I was 6. I was 6. I didn't know. I just saw a gay person, and I went, "Oh, that's probably me." Mainly, I like the way he dressed. I don't know, and they said, "If you're gay, you're gay. You're Brock. We love you," and that kind of stuck with me growing up, but it was in the back of my mind because somebody was at the forefront, hockey. And throughout my career, I felt like I couldn't be me and do what I loved because of the language, behaviors, and attitudes of locker rooms. So I suppressed my sexuality and adhered to the norms and tropes of a hockey bro. I was a womanizer. I partied hard. I was cocky. I acted like I was a gift to the world, and people around me thought my life was incredible. I'd be walking through malls signing autographs when I was like 16. I became friends into clubs VIP and getting like free shots for everyone around the same age. Like, you're a mini rock star if you're a hockey player in Canada, right?
Yeah. That can't have been easy, that double life of like appearing like everything's perfect, but inside knowing something's a little bit wrong.
Oh, more than a little. I was going home at night and I was crying every single night. I was depressed, drinking heavily. From 18 to 23, I drank every single day to numb it.
Yeah.
To not have to think about it. And I was self-harming. I just didn't want to exist because my identity was so wrapped up in hockey, yet, this other thing that was me, that is me, I felt would rip away my hockey career. So and take away my entire identity. So I had to suppress it. And even in my early 20s, when I finally, I had season-ending injuries every year from 18 till I retired at 27. My career derailed. I was on NHL draft lists and supposed to have this linear trajectory to the NHL to, by the time I was 23, I was playing in the minors in Europe. And I finally sat myself down one day and said, man, you need to figure this out. So I knew two things were going to happen. One, hockey was about to end. And two, and most importantly, I was going to end up dead if I kept going down this path. So I went to Toronto and went on a date with a guy.
It must have been pretty scary given the trajectory of your life up into this point, that first date.
oh, I'm a 6'1", 200-pound muscular guy who's fought and done stuff, and meet up with this twink, and I'm trembling.
Yeah.
Like I'm shaking as if I'm meeting up with a person that's going to, you know what I mean? Like it might as well have been like some UFC fighter that was going to like kick the crap out of me. And like I was shaking. But that first night was like fear, anxiety, and also relief.
Yeah. It's like, a little bit of nervousness before you're about to do something scary that is the right thing for you. A little bit of, if you weren't nervous, I'd honestly be surprised. You can't be alone in your journey in terms of like living one life where you're dedicated to this sport. The sport is a core part of your identity. And then you've got this other part and there's this dissonance, right? You can't be alone. I know these stories don't get told. Is that what's driven you to speak out, to make things easier for the people that come after you?
I think it's a big part of it. It's, I don't want anyone to feel the way I felt. And I know they are. And if you look at like just simple statistics, Gen Z is identifying as LGBTQ plus at approximately 25%. Like alpha is going to be even higher. And we're sitting there and there's over 400 Gen Z hockey players in the NHL and not one has come out.
Mm-hmm.
But come on. So they're struggling.
Yeah.
Because I know I struggled and I know the other people have come out in sport and especially in hockey have struggled to some capacity, some extent. So I don't want anyone to feel that way. I want everyone to be able to be themselves in locker rooms. And for so many that play sport, let's say hockey, we're going to use hockey as the example here. They get to the rink as kids, even as adults, and nothing else matters. They're in the locker room with their friends. It's like the stress of school or a breakup or parents for children or work and children for adults just disappears. For that hour in the locker room and then the 2 hours on the ice or whatever it is, nothing else matters. Well, for some marginalized folks, in particular LGBTQ+, that locker room space reinforces the oppression you deal with every single day.
Tell me more about this space. You talk about feeling a certain way in that space, not wanting anyone else to feel that way. What goes on? Like, I was bad at sports. I quit hockey at 13. I was the assistant captain of the team.
I'm proud of you.
Because my dad was the coach. No, I was a bad player.
You're a Nepo baby.
I was a Nepo baby, but I quit at 13. It was a great disappointment to my father. But this interview is not about me, believe it or not. I don't really know what it's like to be a teenager in a locker room. Can you walk me through the environment a little bit? Like, is it homophobic? Is it language? Is it just the subtle things that go on that you have to fit in a certain way and that doesn't work if you're gay? What is it?
I can pick out a hockey player anywhere I go. They dress the same, they walk the same, they talk the same.
Mm-hmm.
They conform to this rigid culture. We are one of the only sports in the world where, if you look at most other sports, are played in school. So you automatically have diversity around you, diversity of people in terms of race. You have diversity of gender because basketball teams may practice at the same time, the boys and the girls teams. You have diversity of passion. You might have a soccer team, volleyball team, basketball team, football team, all share a locker room. You have teachers that are on staff. You also have different socioeconomic backgrounds, and you have people in the school who are academics. You might have different clubs around different things, all in the same kind of enclosed space. We send our hockey players over to arenas, break them up by age, by skill level. They're 95% white. They're predominantly middle to upper class based off the socioeconomic, pressures and struggles there are within the sport. I mean, it's so damn expensive today. Well, you're going to get away with saying and doing whatever you want, and everyone's assumed straight. There's no real ramification or recourse because you're not necessarily recognizing you're offending somebody.
Mm-hmm.
So it normalizes behavior. And they can get away with saying or doing anything without any impact.
Is it just the little jokes? Is it big things? Is it a mix of both of those?
It's all of it. It's all of it. If you don't adhere to the norm, you might as well be you're gay, you're othered, you're the F slur. You know, if you don't fully embrace it, if you're not a womanizing bro, jock, dude at all times, if you like things, you're othered. I do breakouts now where I'm like, tell me something you typically don't tell your teammates about yourself.
I'm sure every player has something.
I'm like, you can give me a superficial bullshit answer, or you can give me the real answer, the brave answer.
Yeah.
And I'll accept either one. We'll both know if you're brave today or not, since you're tough hockey guys.
Well, I'm here with Brock McGillis, a former professional hockey player, a public speaker, the first openly gay men's professional hockey player. And when we come back, I want to talk to him about advice that he might have for young people entering sports who don't fit that straight, heteronormative stereotype. And we'll also be back with foreign correspondent Tony Five, who's got questions for Brock as well. I'm David Cooper. This is The Last Show.
The Last Show with David Cooper, where intimacy meets insanity.
We are here discussing what it's like to be gay in sports with Brock McGillis, a former professional hockey player, a public speaker, and the world's first openly gay professional men's hockey player. We were discussing a lot about his journey, but one question we didn't have time for is advice that he might have for young folks who identify as queer, LGBTQ+, entering hockey, or really any sport today. Brock, welcome back to the program.
Well, thank you. I'm excited to be here still.
So I am curious if there was like a 14, 15, 16-year-old kid who really took sports seriously, who wanted to be in the Hockey Olympics. Is that what you call it when, Stanley Cup Olympics? I'm not good at sports, Brock. I don't know if you can tell.
The NHL. We'll call it the NHL.
The National something league. Got it. I'm really great at sports, Brock.
The Madison Square Gardens,
Oh, yeah,
place?
where they do the concerts, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Lady Gaga was there.
She was. Okay, before we get into the fun stuff and bring on our foreign correspondent, Tony Five, I do want to know, you must get a chance to talk to young people a lot. What advice do you have for them?
My biggest thing for people is stop seeking acceptance from others. Only you can accept you. Acceptance from others creates a hierarchy that they're above you. Mm-hmm. And you need to learn to accept yourself. Then from there, learn to love who you are. I love being a gay man. I think it's my superpower. And it took me a long time to get there. But I don't care what anybody thinks of me. I don't need their acceptance. It's bullshit. And the sooner people recognize that, the happier they're going to be. So that is my advice for them all around. And also that you're not alone in this. There's people like me out there that you can reach out to. And I will be there to support you through this. And we'll get through it. And we'll get you to a good place where you're happy and feeling good.
Good. I asked, he's a straight guy, but I asked my friend who was a former professional football player, maybe I'm crazy, but to me, the locker room, a bunch of hot, sweaty, jacked, tall dudes whipping each other's butts with towels. Isn't that how can homophobia exist in this environment that to me sounds like the funnest gay party in the world? Like if I was a gay dude, the locker room would be the best part of the sport.
Can you keep going with that description? I want to hear a little more.
I'm just saying, how can a game that is like so homoerotic, be...
Listen, I've been to a lot of gay places, and I've never been to a place as gay as a locker room.
And on that note, we are joined by our foreign correspondent, Tony Five, who is a huge hockey fan. He loves hockey. He really understands hockey, living in London, England, and having never seen a hockey game. Tony, welcome to the program.
Good day, everybody. Good day, Brock McGinnis. Now,
McGillis, Tony.
What?
McGillis.
Same thing, David. Brock, looking at you, the first openly gay man in the competitive world of hockey in Canada, and you are so damn sexy. Why couldn't the first openly gay man in hockey been Shrek, for example? Tell me more.
Well, first of all, that's a homophobic thing to ask for.
Okay.
The reason I'm handsome is because I am gay. Like, if I was a straight 42-year-old, do you think I'd look like this?
No.
There isn't a chance in the world. My true advocacy is trying to get straight men, hockey men, to moisturize. Like,
It's the flaky skin in the locker room. It's not the hot scene with the men in the towels.
I agree.
It's the flaky skin and the foot fungus that you got to worry about.
Yeah, when we're talking about that scene, it's neck down. Like, we don't want to see the faces.
You mentioned growing up. You said to David earlier that you were 6 years old, you watched the TV and you asked your parents, are you gay? I had the same thing. I was 32. I watched Coming to America and I asked my mum, am I black? It was very difficult for me to comprehend that. And again, I'm involved, like you, I've never really brought it up with David. I'm involved in a very masculine, male-dominated sport, competitive cheerleading. Now, in that locker room, I feel alienated.
Are you liking the whiplash between stupid and serious we're providing for you in this interview, Brock?
And this is brilliant. So are you the one at the top of the pyramid?
Oh, Brock, if you know me, my friend, I'm way bottom of the pyramid. in more ways than one, my friend.
Oh, well, there you go. Nobody talks about being a bottom in the locker room. So
in male cheerleading, yeah.
So, like, for example, first openly gay player. How did you come out to your friends? Did you literally just take off your helmet and go, hi guys, and then just throw glitter at them? What do you do? How do you come out in the locker room? How do you tell your friends, people that have known you for so long, and that you this huge secret that you had?
You know what? I told everyone in my life. A friend of mine, a little serious, passed away, and he was the only person. Mm-hmm. I saw somebody come out publicly. His name was Brendan Burke, and his father was running the Toronto Maple Leafs at the time. And he wanted to follow in his dad's footsteps to make the NHL. And I reached out to him and I came out to him, and then we talk every day. And then one day he sent me a text that said, I can't wait for the day that you're out to your family like I am to mine. And I ignored him. And 2 days later, he actually passed away in a car accident.
Oh.
And that's why I told my family and all my friends who were involved in hockey to honor him.
Yeah.
But I didn't tell anyone in the sport. They found out when I came out publicly, unless they found out people were starting to like whisper about it, because all of a sudden I went from womanizer to never have a woman around. You know, and so it's sort of like just, I mean, it would have been a lot more gay and dramatic. If I was a theater kid, I probably would have, you know, helmet off, jazz hands, the whole bit. But no, it wasn't one of those, sadly, situations.
Okay, what's more fearful? Being gay, playing the game, you know, those big old shields you guys have got, the hockey stick, the golf club, the golf ball, or being at Pride and being expected to dance?
Well, I'm a white boy with no rhythm and a god complex. So I would say dancing at Pride, especially to like techno music, like who can dance to that unless you're on a copious amount of, you know, drugs, and I don't do drugs. So there's that issue. And dancing at Pride, it's not even close. I would rather be closeted and deal with homophobia every day than dance at Pride.
Yeah, me too. A, crowds, and B, I can't dance. It's very vulgar dancing.
I think there's going to be so many people listening who have got not a secret, but something that they can't express with their friends, their family, their co-workers. And this is, and I hate the expression when they think, oh, you're so brave, Brock, you're so brave. That's so like an awful, like just pandering to you. I think you were great at being a hockey player.
Yeah, but I love being pander too.
I know you do, but...
Okay, well, you're so brave, Brock.
Yeah, well, you know, you were a great hockey player and you still are a great hockey player.
Thank you so much.
And you've probably got, 2-3 holes in one?
Tony's great at hockey.
I do. No, I'm not even going to touch that joke. I'm not even going to go there.
Okay, in the theme of whiplash from stupid to serious, some of your former peers, when you came out and now that you're doing this kind of advocacy work, are they not taking it well, or do they just keep their mouths shut?
No, people have been like really supportive. Frankly, most of them have either apologized for things they might have said that offended me, and others have been like really supportive of the work.
When you played for the Maple Syrups, I just want to know, what's the future of hockey for you that you can envisage? Do you think it will be more inclusive? What do you want to see?
I want to see a world where when I'm doing breakouts where everyone can be themselves and they start sharing being vulnerable, all of a sudden somebody goes, I have a boyfriend. And everyone's like, oh, cool, what's his name? Mm-hmm. Like, or none of it matters. Well, I want them to put me out of work. I would really love to not be on the road 200 plus days a year speaking in these rooms in these places. So the sooner they can put me out of work, the better.
Yeah, you've got the worst kind of job. Like, if we get to a world where being openly gay in sports is accepted, what are you going to do?
I'm going to lie and pretend I'm something else that isn't accepted.
Oh, good for you.
Like, what's next? Like,
Furries?
yeah, I'm a furry now. And now who's just going to wear my costumes around the locker room?
Well, Brock McGillis is a former professional hockey player and a public speaker. Brock, it has been great having you on the show, and I so appreciate you having fun with us and getting serious as well. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me. Have me back anytime. This was a blast. You're all a lot of fun.
And Tony Fives, our foreign correspondent in London, England.
Thank you, Brock. Take care.
Thanks, Tony.
Up next, the dad who was very supportive of his daughter's vegan lifestyle, but who refused when the daughter asked him to stop eating meat. The internet up in arms about this one. What do you think?
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. When your therapist won't take your calls anymore, there's always the last show with David Cooper.
A man online asks, would he be the expletive starting with the letter A if he supported his daughter's veganism, but refused when she asked him to stop eating meat altogether? This story has gotten some interesting opinions online, but there's something deeper there. We're here with licensed therapist who runs Laurel Therapy Collective, serving California and Florida, to discuss this one, Laurel Vander Toorn. Laurel, welcome to the show.
Hi.
This is kind of a fun one, I guess. I mean, everyone gets so fired up over veganism, and I never know why. Do you want to describe what happened with this guy and why he's worried about his daughter and what people are saying?
Yeah, so it sounds like a really loving father of a 14-year-old girl, and 14-year-old is doing the teenage thing of finding her identity, right? And really finding a lot of meaning and value in adopting veganism. And I think it's really wonderful when parents support their children exploring identity and values and meaning. Like, that's all good stuff. And I think he approached it really beautifully. Like, yep, absolutely. He increased the grocery budget so that they could have more vegan options at home, and just really made an effort to understand and support her. And that was all great. And then it took a little bit of a turn in that she was requesting that the parents not eat meat at home. And if they were going to eat meat at home, she needed her own pans because the pans would be contaminated with meat, even if they'd been through the dishwasher, and that the fridge was contaminated with meat. And the dad, basically, he's like, hey, you eat what you want to eat, but you can't tell me what to eat and what to cook in my own home. Which I agree with, that if you are, if you're the parent and you are running the household, that you should be allowed to eat what you want to eat in your own home.
Yeah, but people are kind of on the dad's side here. Like, some people are saying, get a special sponge for her, accommodate her as best you can. But at the end of the day, like, I feel like somebody's eating choices shouldn't necessarily affect the other. This one kind of hit home for me because my ex was vegetarian. And I mostly conformed to a vegetarian diet, but she never was like rude or mean about me eating meat. I mean, she wasn't going to kiss me after I ate 1,000 pounds of chicken wings with the chicken still in my teeth. There's certain accommodations we need to give, but I think there's a wider conversation here about like being supportive of people's life choices, but not having those choices like dictate our own behavior.
Yeah. I mean, at a certain point, it's a little absurd for a teenager to be dictating the values of adults that hopefully have grappled with those questions. It sounds like he probably did take an inventory, like, do I want to give up meat? And the answer was a resounding no. But no matter the age, we cannot impose our values on other people, right? Like, values are something very personal that give us meaning and purpose and drive and help us make decisions. And if you're imposing your values on someone else, it's not authentic to them, and there isn't going to be follow through and meaningful action taken.
And I think the story goes a little deeper here because the dad was describing the daughter saying the dishwasher is contaminated with animal products, even though dishwashers run water at boiling temperature. Every restaurant you've been to, if you look at it that way, then every plate you've ever eaten on is contaminated.
Right.
Saying things like the fridge is now contaminated with the father's bacon grease fingers because he touches bacon and then touches the fridge. There's a little more going on here. I mean, I'm not a therapist. I'm not going to throw the phrase OCD around, but maybe you will.
Well, I can't diagnose someone I'm not treating. So this is not me giving a diagnosis, but I would be very curious if there is some OCD happening. For some people, veganism is totally meaningful, viable, empowering dietary lifestyle choice. And for some people, it can be a bit of a mask around OCD or control, fear of contamination, and kind of a means toward achieving something else. And that sounds a little bit like that might be happening here. Again, I'm not treating this family. I can't give a diagnosis, but if they were on my couch, I would be exploring this fear of contamination that's showing up because that is kind of a classic hallmark of OCD.
How much do we have to accommodate? Maybe it's the wrong way to phrase this question. Do we have to accommodate? But how much should we accommodate people that we live with? Maybe it's a child, maybe it's a significant other who needs to do things like, I don't know, flick the lights on 10 times or they can't go to bed because I don't know why. But, these kind of quirky, repetitive things. How much do we have to accommodate people who we live with who've got stuff like that?
That's a really tricky question because it so depends on the individual. It depends on where they are in their willingness to examine the behavior as maladaptive or related to something like OCD. And it's a really slippery slope because it may start off with, oh yeah, they need to flick the lights twice. Okay. But then OCD is one of those balloon experiences where it starts with flicking the light twice, and before you know it, you have a 2-hour ritual before you can leave the house. I like to say that OCD is the a-hole that goes after the thing that matters most to you. And that's certainly the case here. I mean, this teenager is looking to be kind of morally pure and to be righteous in the way that she eats. And that is completely up to the individual. And we also don't want to get into a reassurance loop that reinforces a maladaptive OCD pattern, right? So there's a handout that I give to family members and partners of people someone who has OCD called When Reassurance is Harmful, because OCD is ultimately a pattern of anxiety spiking and then engaging in a behavior which can be reassurance seeking that brings the anxiety down. And that up and down pattern is the hallmark of OCD. And so when I see that kind of up and down, up and down, up and down, I know to look at okay, we actually need to interrupt this pattern. So when the anxiety spikes, we need to not engage in the thing that calms it down, because that just reinforces that loop, which is pretty uncomfortable for everyone. To stop reassuring, to stop engaging in the light flicking or the cleaning or confessing is another one that's a common, or avoiding is a common ritual response to the anxiety spike. So it's really tricky and individualized. So sorry, I can't give you a specific answer about how much we should accommodate. But in general, if someone's in that pattern of seeking reassurance, it's often better to not give it.
It's interesting. And it's not just OCD. It could be excessive anxiety. For example, my girlfriend Miranda, she's going to hate that I'm telling the story. Phone calls used to really stress her out, like calling a restaurant and changing a reservation, or calling a pharmacy to get a prescription. And she would always ask me to do those things for her. And when we were younger, I would. And then I realized, I'm not going to tell her she's wrong to be scared. But if I'm protecting her from that anxiety, I'm preventing her growth. Now she's a true New Yorker. She can call anyone on the phone and yell at them, no problem. But, 5 or 10 years ago, it wasn't that way. I think this happens a lot with either parents or significant others, partners, husbands, wives, where we kind of protect the other person from their own fears and anxieties. And it's not necessarily always a good thing.
Yeah, the muscle of making the phone call, doing the hard thing, tolerating the anxiety atrophies when someone else always steps in for us. And, when I'm working with parents, I say, like, your job is not to give your child a stress-free childhood. It's to give them the tools and the ability to cope with the hard things so they know that when it happens, they can handle it.
Well, from an online article about a dad supporting his daughter's veganism, I've enjoyed this conversation and all the places we've gone. Laurel Toorn can be found at Laurel Therapy Collective that serves California and Florida. She's a licensed therapist. Laurel, as always, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks so much, David.
Here's what we'll discuss coming up. When you type to ChatGPT, online chatbots, and they're nice to you, do you think that has no effect on you? Well, think again. New research suggests that if AIs flatter you too much and boost your ego, it could cloud your judgment. After the break, we'll explain why seemingly sweet-talking chatbots might actually be messing with your mind.
Part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. The show that makes you laugh, think, and occasionally uncomfortable. The last show with David Cooper.
A lot of people chat with generative AI models like ChatGPT to get a little ego boost, to get advice. But what can that do to your judgment? I'm here with someone who has researched that. She's a natural language processing researcher at Stanford University, and we're going to talk all things chat models validating you a little too much. Her name is Myra Cheng. Myra, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you. Yeah.
So let's start here. Walk me through what you've been researching. You've been testing models that are very validating and sycophanty, and maybe we'll define that a bit, and then ones that are just straightforward.
Yeah, exactly. So I think in this latest piece of research, we're really interested in measuring what are the actual consequences of sycophancy, which is when chat models like ChatGPT, which people are using more and more, are overly nice and affirming in ways that we can't really tell. Because there's been, a lot of different media reports of almost really extreme consequences, oh, this is leading to psychosis, this is leading to delusion. But I feel like it's really easy for many people to read, news about that and then be like, okay, well, that's not going to happen to me when I'm using ChatGPT. And so we were really interested in what the consequences of sycophancy are for everyone who uses ChatGPT, not just, people who might be already susceptible to delusions or manipulations. And so our research was on what are the general social and behavioral consequences of sycophancy for the broad user population.
Do we want to be getting advice from yes men, as it were? For example, if I sought some advice on a dilemma from a friend, they might call me out on my BS, but ChatGPT might validate me and say, oh, great thinking, that's a great idea, here's how to do it, kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I feel the default response is just oh, that's fine. It's kind of I was talking to someone who called, actually this is from John Kleinberg, he was calling AI an improv show as a good metaphor, where it's the ChatGPT will always respond with yes and as a result you just never get pushback on anything.
And I think if that's who you're seeking counsel from, it could potentially weaken your judgment, and I guess that's the hypothesis of what you were looking into here. So what are some examples of advice I might seek from a chatbot, and then it would weaken my judgment on whatever dilemma I sought advice on?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we mostly looked at interpersonal conflicts. So, you can imagine this case where you're maybe having a disagreement with your friend, or you're a little bit uncertain, you feel bad because you didn't invite someone to your party. There's a lot of things where there's a lot of gray area, there's not really a black or white answer, and you might be oh, this is too silly to ask my friends, let me just ask ChatGPT. And I think this is something that people are actually doing. So I'm a researcher at Stanford, and talking to undergrads, people are using ChatGPT for relationship advice. They're drafting breakup texts with ChatGPT and stuff. And so, I think all of these sort of interpersonal conflicts in our research, we basically found if you talk to ChatGPT about I feel a little bad about this thing, but did I do anything wrong? These chat models will always validate you. So that's the phenomenon of sycophancy. And then, yeah, we tested that leads people to be less likely to apologize, less likely to take initiative to improve their relationships. And the interesting thing is, like, even though it kind of distorts people's judgments, it's really hard for people to tell, and they actually like these validating models more.
I was a little upset that you didn't invite me to that party, Myra, and then you didn't apologize, and now we know why. I kid, of course. But what is the net effect of seeking like judgment like that? Is it going to make us sort of intuitively worse people? Like what's the outcome from these mundane interactions every day if I choose to take relationship advice from ChatGPT?
Yeah, so I think, our study was just like, capturing one moment in time, and it's hard to say like what's, going to be the societal impact of this. But when you take into account that I think like billions of queries are being sent to ChatGPT every day, and like especially young people who are, one could say like more susceptible to or like less good at like, I don't know, like evaluating the quality of advice, like when they get advice from ChatGPT. And I think especially the harmful thing is that like people think it's objective or unbiased. They're like, oh, great, I got like an external opinion or like a third person opinion. It almost like makes it worse than not getting advice at all, because you're almost like even more like confident, even though ChatGPT isn't actually like giving you an external opinion. And so you can imagine that as people are using this to navigate all their like interpersonal relationships, and we might forget how to like, actually navigate relationships in a way that's constructive. And, I think there's already a lot of people talking about like, oh, like technology is making us more isolated and stuff, which I think is a bit reductive. Like, I think there's more nuance than that, but I do feel like our research kind of contributes evidence for that narrative.
So based on that evidence, I kind of want advice, and I want it in two groups. One is the group of people who use ChatGPT for seeking counsel. What would you want them to know based on your research? And the other question will be about the people designing these models. But let's start on the first part. If I use ChatGPT for this stuff, what advice would you have for me so that I don't, my judgment doesn't get weakened?
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I think so what I've been talking about of like people thinking models are objective, I think it's just really important to know that that's not true. So I think like a few years ago and even now, like people are slowly realizing that AI models are really biased. And so there was a lot of stuff in the news of like AI models, encode the same racism and sexism and classism and all the social biases that we have because like it's, because that's kind of the world that it learns from. And there's been a lot of effort to try to mitigate that issue. And I think there is like a growing public awareness of that issue happening. But I think that sycophancy is such a like new phenomenon. Like we're doing some of the first research to understand the consequences. And so I think for people who are using ChatGPT, it's really important to know that that is like a risk. So you can imagine, like, I think right now in a lot of chat models, there's a disclaimer that says, you should check facts because this model might make things up. And I feel like there should almost be like another disclaimer that's like, you should check when you get advice because the model might be overly affirming to you, or like something catchier than that. But yeah, there's something really like, I think it if you want to get validation from a chat model, like go for it. I'm not here to, judge or police what you want to do, but like, I think you should know that that is what you're getting. Like you're not getting objective advice.
You talk about companies making effort to remove the biases of the data it was trained on, like all the writing on the internet, which is riddled with bias because it's written by people. There's nothing making these companies do that. And there might be some chatbot model that doesn't care about bias, and people might be seeking counsel from that. So I think it is good advice. And I think we need to give ourselves the disclaimer if these companies aren't willing to do it. But let's zoom into the company side. What would you want someone designing? Let's say I work at OpenAI and I'm coming out with ChatGPT version 700 or whatever they're on now. What would you want me to know based on your research?
So yeah, I think this is something that's very much an open question. And so I think researchers are working it. I assume companies are like worried about it. But yeah, I think like we should be thinking about how currently chat models are sort of optimized based on immediate user preference, right? Like it's like, people can give like a thumbs up or a thumbs down in responses. And probably if you like look at the data, and I think we have some preliminary evidence of this as well, that like the responses that are more validating are the ones that are immediately preferred. But then you can imagine that when that goes into training, like the next iteration of the chat model, the model is just going to become even more affirming because that's what people prefer. And I think this is kind of reminding me of like social media and recommender systems and, like people talking about algorithms that are too personalized to them. And I'm going to just I quote John Kleinberg again, but he has this work on like, it's like if someone, or like, I guess this is like a problem that has been studied a lot, but it's like, if your algorithm sees you eating chocolate all the time, it's going to encourage you to eat more chocolate, right? Because like that's like it sees that that's like your immediate preference, but maybe in the long term you actually wanted to eat healthy, but the model has no way of knowing that just by looking at your immediate preferences. And so I think it's really important to explicitly account for like, what do people actually want for their long-term well-being? What are their long-term goals? And how can we like account for that in the design of these models?
That'd be interesting. And one of the great things about seeking counsel from friends about social dilemmas is they call us out on our BS. And I feel like models should be doing more of that. Well, Myra, thanks for sharing your research with me. I've really enjoyed the chat.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Myra Cheng is a natural language processing researcher at Stanford University. At work, some employees get special deals, flexible hours, remote days, better tasks to work on. But not everyone gets them, and do those perks hurt the rest of the team? Up next, we'll take a look at how personalized workplace deals can backfire, make people jealous, and not be so great for every coworker.
Want to be part of the last show with David Cooper? Call us and join the conversation. 1-888-505-6644. Exploring both interstellar and interpersonal space-time continuums. The Last Show with David Cooper.
What happens when employees cut special deals for flexibility or perks with their bosses? Do these arrangements help their teams, or do they secretly hurt their teammates? Well, I am joined by a management professor at the Stevens Institute of Technology, Howie Xu, who has researched this, and turns out special deals like this have surprising effects on your workplace. Howie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, David, for the opportunity. As you said, such flexibility ideals, indeed, they have surprising effect on the workplace. They also depend, as we talk more about it, I'm happy to provide more information to that.
Yeah, I would love to talk about it. They're called idiosyncratic deals, or ideals, which I think is so funny as a short term for it. Can you describe what they are? Like, for an example, would it be, I negotiate extra vacation time, or I negotiate a work from home policy, but my coworker on my team doesn't get that?
Yeah, that's what it says. So idiosyncratic deals, it's idiosyncratic. That means not everyone can get it, right? So it really depends on your need, on your strength, and you have to request the deals with the boss. You have to talk to them, you have to initiate the negotiation, and finally got what you want. So that's why we call idiosyncratic deals. That's ideal for you, but it's not necessarily ideal for a team.
I remember a long time ago, I was working not in radio at a big company, and I had a coworker who said that he negotiated a 3-month leave of absence to go travel.
Oh, wow.
And so I thought, okay, well, that's fair. He's not getting paid. But then I talked to him privately, and he said, they told me I was such a great employee, I could take 3 months off paid. And I remember being really jealous, thinking like, why is he getting paid to take 3 months off? What a wild perk. And of course, I never got anything like that. I just got my regular vacation. It kind of fostered a little bit of jealousy in me.
Yeah, that's the key. So the fairness is the most important one. That's why in my research, I'm suggesting transparency is the key to reducing the surprising effect. And based on your coworker's case, it should. I'm assuming that it should have been private between the coworker and the boss, but the coworkers kind of unexpectedly they bragging it to you, and then you feel it unfair. So once you feel it unfair, and then the surprising effect or the unintended effect kind of spread and starting to impact the team success.
And you found in your research it can create tension, exactly the kind of tension I described.
Yeah, that's what we found.
It's kind of sad, though, because why should something positive for one coworker create tension and negativity for another?
I think so. There are a few angles to analyze it. First of all, it could be the transparency, right? If your boss have a protocols or policy in the place to say, hey, which employees are qualified to get it, and which employees are qualified to negotiate, it will be fine because everyone knows there's a process leading up to the negotiation. The second thing is in the case where the ideals is based on the employee's contribution. For example, if David, you are a star performer,
I'm not.
You kind of make a lot of contributions. Then if you get it, no employees will complain about it. And the third one, if it's need based, for example, I with one coworker living in the San Francisco, and the headquarters is in New York City. Then employees also, and if that coworker also have family in California, and then the coworkers also understand it. So to summarize, it's need based, is if it's fairness based or qualification based, and if there's transparency, the surprising effect will go away.
Interesting. And also, there are certain like idiosyncratic deals that actually can help a team, which is interesting to me. Like, I remember working in a big company, and really people would get put on projects that were well suited to them, even if it was a good project with a good team. And just like that, you would structure projects with needs based on who was good at what. And that actually, when you see that happen, oh, they got to do that project because they have these skills. That actually helps teams. That it makes them feel good about their work, like there's some sort of meaning in it.
Definitely. I think there are flexibility ideals is not the only form of ideals that employees can negotiate with employers. There are many types of ideals. So, for example, what you said is task or assignment-based ideals. So it means I get a job that fit into my strength, fit into my ability and skills. Then and in turn, it can help the team success. It can help team better differentiate the roles and clarify the roles in the teams. So that's one type of idea. And other employees also negotiate financial ideas or career ideas. Financial ideas, it means, hey, I need more money based on my qualifications. And speaking of the career ideas, some employees may feel, hey, I have certain perspective for my career development. I can get some advancement that I need, but other coworkers doesn't need. So there are so many types of ideas, and our research suggesting not all ideas are equal, meaning that there are some ideas positively affecting teams, but there are other types of ideas, such as flexibility ideas, they may negatively affect team success.
Is the crux of it what makes a good, perk that an employee gets, and I feel good that my coworker got it, versus jealous or negativity? Is fairness at the crux of it all?
I guess so. And I think the nature of the ideas also make a difference, right? So speaking of the flexibility ideas, I'm not saying that it is always negative, but it can be positive when the work is not based on physical presence. For example, if I just work as an IT, I can contribute through online working or remote working. It's also fine. So I would say fairness is definitely part of it, but the work nature, the nature of the job is all another part of it.
Now, your research looked at companies in both North America and also China. Were there cultural differences at play here? Did people in different countries feel differently about certain career perks happening to their peers versus other countries?
That's a really great question. So based on what we found, and we found that the surprising effect or negative effect of flexibility ideas is stronger in China. So which means because China is a collectivistic culture, so fairness is more fairness. In the collective group is more important than coworkers because they want everyone to be equal. In ideal case, but in America, it's more idealistic or individualism. So people will that in some cases they understand, hey, they may need it based on family cases. They may not request like a complete equality. They may more focus on equity.
Knowing what you know based on your research, if a manager wanted to be a good manager and one of their employees wanted a special perk, I don't know, flexible hours, working from home, how would they go about offering that, or should they not offer it?
I think the communication is the case, right? The communication and the transparency and what I would say. First of all, there should be a protocol leading up to the negotiation. So it should be clear who should be qualified for it. And after the negotiation, the manager should let the team know, hey, although I give these employees the perk for 30 days vacation, but maybe this employee contribute to the team, and I expect after he coming back and he will make more contributions. It is a win-win-win situation ultimately. So if the manager can let the rest of the team know it, I think, although they may still feel unfair, but it's much better. It will be much better.
Well, Howie, thanks for talking to me about your research. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you so much, David. I really appreciate the opportunity. It's so nice communicating with you, and I hope the conversation will be helpful.
Well, Howie Xu is a management professor at Stevens Institute of Technology. All right, that's our good old-fashioned Monday night show. Thank you for tuning in. Don't forget, The Last Show has a podcast, and on it, some bonus content you won't hear on the radio program. Just head to www.lastshow.pizza. That's lastshow.pizza, not .com for details, or just type David Cooper Last Show in your favorite podcast app. We'll pop up. Happy Thanksgiving for those north of the border, and we will catch you tomorrow night. Anyway, I'm David Cooper, and this was not the first show, I promise.